Holden and John Thomas, Republican pollster and founder and president of Thomas Partners Strategies. Good to have both of you.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
Thank you. John, you're up first this time. What is Senator McConnell's strategy, his goal, and will the plan work the way he hopes it will?
Well, it's a brilliant move, actually, because as the senator said in that warm-up package, quotes are one thing. Quotes are something that these candidates, especially the Democratic primary candidates, can walk back as they go into a general election, saying they've evolved their positions. They didn't really mean that. But votes are a whole nother animal. And so it's important, I think, both to peg a lot of these senators, like Senator Harris and others, to say they actually support this Green New Deal, which, by the way, is wildly unpopular with the mainstream electorate that's going to decide the presidential election. So that's an important strategic thing. So I think it's going to go actually perfectly as planned.
So, Scott, I mean, if the idea is to force the Dems to show their hands either in support of a Green New Deal, against it, or in favor of some modified version, how might this trip up some of the Democratic lawmakers?
Well, I know the Republicans certainly want to trip the Democratic lawmakers up, but I think it's a dangerous strategy. Here's the deal, because the majority of Americans believe in global warming and that it's man-made. The reality is that the Democrats are going to vote present because that's their response to this political maneuvering by McConnell. The reality is, though, there are a lot of Republicans and Democrats that support reducing the carbon footprint, and that the Green Deal is a broad conceptual piece on how you get to an emission-free piece. It's not legislation. And so all you have is this process of going through with this resolution. I don't see how the Republicans expand their base with independents and Democrats by doing this maneuver.
Here's the problem, Scott. You call it broad and conceptual. I think you know that it's toxic to voters in those key swing states. But here's the problem with voting present. That may work fine for Democratic senators who don't have their name on a ballot in a Democratic primary, but senators like Harris and Booker and others will get lambasted from the left of their primary base if they don't vote their values, and that's voting for this deal. So they're kind of damned if they do, they're damned if they don't.
Maybe, but the reality is this. Hold on one second. The reality is this. They can vote present and explain that vote, but on the campaign trail, whether they're running for president or running in a particular state, whether it's a red state or blue state, they can advocate for this Green Deal or parts of it, or to add more to it, so that because they're clearly, it's on their mind. And for Democrats, the environment is a big issue, so they don't necessarily have to vote for it up or down. The House has done that already, and on the campaign trail, they've said they support this.
So I'm going to wrap up by saying that the Green New Deal strives for net zero greenhouse gas emissions in the U.S. while creating millions of, quote, good jobs, high-wage jobs, all right? So, Scott, I want you to tell me why this is a good deal, and then, John, you'll tell me why it's not good for Americans. People are watching. They want to know, what's the fuss?
Sure. Well, the Republicans have made it a big fuss. Listen, we've got a real problem with emissions. Every scientist, the majority of them have described this. Obviously, the voters, we know the 80% or more support doing something about it, and it's man-made. The Republicans are in denial. We know under the Obama administration, new energy deals created thousands of jobs. And as a goal here, if we can get started on reducing these emissions, it's going to create a lot of jobs, union jobs and otherwise. So we shouldn't be afraid of it. But there's a lot more to it. These are broad outlines right now.
All right, John, what do you say?
Yeah, well, first of all, this is just basically advocates for larger government control, telling individuals what they can and can't do with their lives. I would disagree with Scott that union leaders from the well, it just, what it does is it's regulating things from the fact that perhaps we shouldn't be allowed to eat hamburgers, that our beef consumption might be adding to CO2 gas emission. It's the kinds of cars we can drive.
Well, it's not so much.
By the way,
I mean, okay, so
it dictates that there be high-speed rail
one quick
nationally.
Second, John.
How are we going to pay for that? That means the government's going to have to tax.
We certainly have to figure it out.
I don't know if you're old enough to know, but maybe you remember back in the 70s, if you got behind a car, shame on you, because that thing was just killing you with the exhaust. I mean, that's actually a good thing for me, for you, driving behind them, for the environment, right? I mean, that's what this is about.
Hey, John, can I ask you a question? What's the
technology in
Republican
the
plan?
market can solve. Technology in the market can solve that. But look, even union leaders like the president of the AFL-CIO have written letters to AOC saying this is a disaster. It will hurt our jobs. The bigger electoral problem with this is this Green New Deal is essentially saying that coal workers and miners, blue-collar workers, that their jobs will be obsolete.
But here's the thing, and Scott,
if they pass this measure.
The coal miners don't have jobs now. Coal is archaic.
First of all, there's technologies like clean coal and others, and
of course,
they do have jobs, and there are blue
guys, you're talking
collar
over each other, so I can't hear. Nobody can hear anything, so we're going to end it there.
John, what's the Republican plan? That's my
we don't
only
want
question.
anyone to lose their jobs. I heard what you said, Scott, that coal miners are losing their jobs now because we don't rely on coal so much anymore. So we hope that these people can get other work, of course.
Exactly. I agree with that.
But thank you both. I have to leave it there. Scott Bolden and John Thomas, and I'll talk to you.